Mine just was, like, focused on the inspiration, like, when you are absent of hope in some sense in the business, like, where do you get inspired from? Or, like, is that even a thing, you know?
It is a thing, probably in a different way than maybe an artist, if you like, right? Um, there's a story where we had we had created a good business, and then the Australian market started going a little bit sideways, and we went into the Indonesian market, right? And we created a direct to consumer business, and we built it to about 4 million users, put a ton of money in it, put in a lot of uh, people, I guess time, process, etc., into making that work. And ultimately it didn't. And it brought us to a point that we really had a Christmas party, and funnily was at an axe throwing event, and we had no money left in the bank, right? And so I was putting the party on my credit card at the time, right? Because there was just nothing left in the bank to be able to do that. Now, at the time, we had a raise that was happening, and the short end to the story is halfway through the party, the raise actually got completed, and what ended up, I was thinking, was maybe the final party ended up being the start of a pretty dramatic turnaround and a growth in the business. Um, for me, and so for me, it's often around where are the opportunities. I don't think music, if you look at where music is going in the world, it's super, super interesting that I think the places that a company like ours can actually impact, every time I look at the market, the total addressable market, the TAM is bigger than it was before. So because when you think about how music is actually consumed today, it's consumed in every angle, right? Whether it's like traditional in background music or in gaming or in new VR experiences, or in now we're seeing in medical areas and other areas coming out of education, it's consumed everywhere. So for me, it's always for where it's worked out well for me is I've got people that I can really trust that actually have a bigger vision, not necessarily about music. They're able to steer me in a way that allows me to think creatively. And when I'm allowed to think creatively, I start to actually think of different opportunities and ways that I guess instead of being bleak, I get to see a little bit of a ray of sunshine and then work towards that ray of sunshine. And I think you have to have that, especially if you're a founder in a business, right? You have to have that, and probably a little bit external. It can work with co-founders, right? But sometimes you can both be down at the same time. So I think having something external, and Chris, you talked about your position previously as a coach, right? And I think that in many ways is that type of idea as well, that how do you actually coach through that process? So for me, it has been that connection that gives me that ray of hope that then allows us to build something different. And in that example, it was really looking at what we were good at and pivoting from a quite a retail operated business to very being 100% all in on a B2B business. And in 12 months, we turned around a probably $300,000 a month cash burn to being profitable, right? But it was that real focus and almost being at the bottom of the curve that forced us to think up, right?